My name is Matthew Murphy. I'm currently Director of Innovation and Advanced Analytics at a company named Analect. I graduated from the MS in Applied Statistics and Decision Making. And one of the main reasons that I chose the Gabelli School was because I wanted to continue working while I pursued my master's degree. And, being a New York City native, and with my job being in Manhattan as well, this made the transition pretty seamless. One of the main areas that I really wanted to develop my skill sets were in my technical skills, and also in my hard knowledge of applied statistics. I really wanted to be somebody who would be capable as a data scientist or applied statistician, from both a theoretical knowledge point of view and also from a technical point of view. When it came time to, think about the places and values that were important to me for furthering my education, it sort of became a no-brainer that Fordham was a place that I wanted to be at. Getting a Jesuit education, a very supportive community that was inclusive for all different types of students from different backgrounds, pursuing different programs. My earliest experiences in the MSSD program, were learning some of those technical skills like statistical programming, which were immediately applicable to the job that I was in. It paid dividends right away. I also was able to build that technical foundation that made me a much more successful statistician and engineer. And now as a team lead, I take a lot of those same, sort of mentoring approaches, that I learned in the classroom as a student, to my own team. When I first went back to pursue the program, I hadn't been in a classroom in, over 5 years. The transition was definitely difficult. I started slowly, just taking, one class a semester. But once I got used to it, I ramped up to speed pretty quickly. The Fordham community, my advisor, Dr. Kennan, was very supportive, with arranging my schedule and, making sure that I was comfortable with the course load that I was taking. It was definitely a massive challenge to, pursue these graduate level classes that were, in my opinion, quite difficult and, really focused on building, strong technical skills for practicing, statistics and data science. One of the greatest benefits of the MSSD program were the faculty. Gabelli has amazing faculty. I did not expect to develop, such close relationships, with a number of faculty members like Dr. Nagaraja, Dr. Wharton, who I still, keep in touch with today. I really think that their mentorship, not only helped me to, learn the skills and knowledge that I needed to further my career, but I think just also having, their encouragement and, reassurance that, it's difficult for everybody at the beginning when you start to learn how to, code in R or, understanding statistical theory after you've been out of the classroom for 5 years. I think, they've really understood, what I was going through and, provided me a lot of support and mentorship. And I'm very grateful for that. Shortly after graduation, I, through my network, was introduced, to some folks at Analect where I currently work. I met some really amazing, interesting, talented people. I knew immediately that I wanted to be a part of the team there. Um, I've now been there for about 4 years, and now not only have I been able to do the kind of interesting data science work that I set out to um, to use my degree to start doing. But I'm now leading a team that's doing that work, and we're building really interesting products and capabilities for our clients and the media agencies that Analect serves. It's been a really exciting 4 years. I don't think that any of the success that I've had, in my current role at Analect would have happened without all the great support and education that I received at Fordham.